number 12, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta, I seek to ask this question.
Charles Chauvel.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The question is to the Minister of Tourism and asks, does he agree with the statement that there needs to be, quote, short-term steps to reduce the impact of the international credit crunch on the tourism sector so it's strongly placed to achieve growth? If so, why?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, I agree with the full quote, which is from the National Party's tourism policy, and actually says, quote, take the necessary short-term steps to secure the stability of the banking system and to reduce the impact of the international credit crunch on the tourism sector so it is strongly placed to achieve growth as markets improve. I certainly hope the member is not about to suggest the New Zealand banking system is unstable.
Speaker.
Charles Chauvel.
Given, as the Minister has acknowledged, that the statement in the primary question comes from the 2008 National Party manifesto, will he undertake to the House to honour the manifesto promise that his government will ensure a reversal in the 1% decline in tourist numbers experienced by New Zealand in 2008?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the member can rest assured I will do everything possible to ensure the New Zealand banking system is stable.
Question.
Charles Chauvel.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. That wasn't my question.
Point of order, Charles Chauvel.
Mr Speaker, I don't think the question was addressed. It certainly wasn't answered. The question wasn't about the banking system at all.
Speaking point of order, the Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, if the Labour Party want to doctor quotes from the National Party, they should expect the answer they got.
Order. I think I've heard enough on this. I don't think the House needs to waste more time on that. The Prime Minister made a perfectly fair point. The quote was barely a full quote, and so the member can't expect much other than a political answer. I invite the member to ask his further supplementary should he wish. Charles Chauvel.
Well, I'll ask the Minister another question. Does he agree with the statement that tourism is, quote, quite a low-value part of our economy? And if so, why?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the tourism industry is extremely important. That's why I chose to take it as a portfolio and why I chose not to have it a long way down the ministerial order as the member from the government that he once represented did.
Speaker, again,
point of order, Charles Chauvel.
I asked the Minister whether he agreed with the statement and if so, why. He didn't answer.
Order. 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 The member's been around a while now, and where members ask whether or not, where members ask for opinions, they know they can't expect explicit answers. I made it very clear today that where members put down detailed questions, I will endeavour to ensure that members and the public of New Zealand get sensible answers to those questions. But where opinions are sought, the member can't expect precise answers. Supplementary question, Charles Chauvel.
Is the Minister aware that it was John Key, as Leader of the Opposition, who called tourism, quote, low value, and suggested that the problem was that, quote, people just don't get paid enough from it, unquote? And if he is aware of that, why doesn't he heed Opposition Leader John Key and give the thousands of tourism workers on the minimum wage more than a measly 9 cents an hour increase in their wage?
Speaker. The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, it's reasonably well known that one of the challenges for the tourism industry is to try and increase the yield in that industry, and that's something we're doing. It's also true that there are a lot of people who work in the tourism industry who are paid on the minimum wage. They will be pleased yesterday to have received an increase of 50 cents per hour. They'll also be very pleased that we're a government that has a sense of balance and we're not putting at threat their job.
Point of order, Charles Chauvel.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table the article in Mountain Scene from February 2007 where Mr Key said workers just don't get paid enough in tourism.
Leave is sought to table that article. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Supplementary question, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Can the Minister of Tourism confirm in a way that the Minister of Labour was unable to confirm that in fact the real increase after the effect of inflation has taken place of workers in the tourist industry was 9 cents an hour or $3.60 a week, not even a fraction of the block of cheese that he, the Prime Minister, used to talk so fondly about?
The Honourable Prime Minister, a fair stretch from the question, but I'm sure the Prime Minister is capable of handling it. I beg your pardon, the Honourable point of order, Paul Quinn.
If I'm a bit confused. I thought I heard you agree that points of order to be tabled, a paper should be done at the end of supplementaries. We've now just had a supplementary after the Honourable MP moved to table a piece of paper.
The member has raised a perfectly valid point, but it is not a matter of standing orders, a matter of courtesy to members. So the fact that the member sought to table a document prior to the question by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is not a matter of order, it is a matter of courtesy. My concern was the Honourable Leader of the Opposition's question was somewhat stretching the primary question, but I'm sure the Honourable Prime Minister can handle it. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's no debate. Mr. Speaker, there is no debate that the increase in the minimum wage is there to reflect the increase in the CPI. And of course, in real terms, it's not large. But the point here is that it represents a 4.2% increase. The minimum wage in Australia was reviewed on the 1st of October 2008. It was a 4.1% increase. And I think workers in New Zealand will look to this government and say there's a sense of balance here, that they're increasing their pay to take advantage of the situation that they're getting an increase for the CPI. And I only make this point that maybe the Leader of the Opposition should go and read his own manifesto, because actually what it says is, in these difficult economic times, the minimum wage should be increased either relative to the CPI or average wages. Well, guess what? That's what we did.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Can the Minister quantify that the real increase in wages that he granted yesterday to low-paid workers in the tourism industry was actually 9 cents an hour or $3.60 a week, yes or no?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what I can confirm is someone working 40 hours a week yesterday got $20 as an increase. What I can confirm is that they'll almost certainly get a tax cut, and I've made no attempt to argue otherwise that the increase is relevant to the CPI. You won't find any debate on this side of the House.
Point of order, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Earlier, when the Minister of Labour was asked a question asking to quantify a sum, you said that my colleague, the Honourable Trevor Mallard, should have raised a point of order because she did not address the question in that way. You have just seen the Prime Minister do exactly the same, and I presume the same rule affecting Kate Wilkinson also applies to John Key.
I don't need to have any further contribution on that. The Honourable Member my goodwill a little, because the clear difference is the Honourable Trevor Mallard put down a clear question on the order paper. The Minister had a significant amount of time to prepare an answer for it. And in the case of the Honourable Member's supplementary question, it was stretching the primary question. I didn't stop him from asking it. I allowed the Prime Minister to answer it. The member then asked a further supplementary on the basis of the Prime Minister's answer, got a further answer to the question. I believe that there has been a fair balance in that exchange and that final question. But I repeat, for the benefit of members of the opposition, that the point in the Honourable Trevor Mallard's question earlier on today, I think, was a valid point, that where a question is so clear in the way it is put on the order paper, the members of the public can expect an answer to it. Point of order, the Honourable Gerry Brownlee.
Mr. Speaker, you appear to be setting down some reasonably stringent standards for the way in which questions are asked and then answered. I'd ask you, sir, to have a look at the end of proceedings today at the Hansard record, particularly on this question, where in fact the question is about short-term steps to reduce the impact of the international credit crunch on the tourism sector. How we got into this debate on 9 cents an hour increase, or whatever it might have been, inside that question, I think really does stretch the process.
Order. No, I do not need any further assistance on this matter. I don't want to take up further time of the House. Had the Prime Minister not wished to answer the question, he could have made it very clear he believed the question was out of order. The Prime Minister seemed to answer it with some enthusiasm. That entitled the Leader of the Opposition to ask a further question, and I believe that is the way the House should flow in good order. We do not need to get too precious and pedantic on these things, but where questions are laid, repeat what I've said earlier, where questions are laid down clearly, primary questions, members of the public expect an answer. When ministers are answering questions, they can expect the answers they give can be further questioned by members of the opposition. And that brings question time today to a close. And